Good morning, Rob Fleming here. Kind of grey in France. Summer is coming to an end. It's the way it is. Life goes on. Now, some things have provoked me to ask a question, and that question is Ray Blanchard right in his typology of transsexualism or transgenderism? Is he right in positing the two different profiles that he says lead people born male to wish to present as female, to become feminine, male to feminine, male sex, feminine gender? Okay, is he right? Well, there's a couple of things to say. First is, his science has been tested. Roderick et al., for example, in 2009 did a very large study in New York, and while they didn't exactly replicate Blanchard's findings, they largely corroborated them. And they were able to say, and I agree, that the differences they found were probably down to cultural influences. The ethnic base was very different, the age profile was very different. There are a lot of things that were really not the same between Blanchard's study and Roderick's, yet Roderick was unable to disprove Blanchard, which is what he set out to do, as all good scientists would do. His study was set out to test to destruction the hypothesis, the Blanchard theory of autogynephilia and the typology. So, no other large-scale study has ever come anything close to debunking Blanchard. And when people say, oh, the science disagrees with them, no, what they're talking about is social science. They're talking about non-science. They're not talking about statistical, hard, factual science. So you can ignore it. It's meaningless. So that's one thing. But actually, there is a far more evident and obvious reason why Blanchard kind of has to be right. And that is that there are two very clearly different presentations of MTF, male to feminine, in every single culture across the world. Doesn't matter where you go. If you find the transgenders, you'll find, that's the MTFs, you'll find some of them look one way and act one way and behave one way, and most importantly are attracted in one way, and some of them the other. And this is not like a continuum. This is not like a spectrum of difference, a scale of difference, a biological thing. This is a clear and distinct separation between two different subtypes. Now, that's obvious, and that's been known about since before Hirschfeld. So it's been known for over 100 years that there are two distinct types. Nobody in their right minds, okay, some AGPs might be, but hey, nobody in science is arguing that there are two different types. And the brain scan material, it all shows the same thing. There are two different types. Blanchard's theory of his typology is the only game in town. It's the only explanation that there has ever been that fully explains why these two types exist and what their etiologies are. That's the way that they develop. As I am sure you know by now, the two types are homosexual transsexual and autogynephilic. And we'll call them autogynephilic transgender for the sake of politeness just now. Okay? Homosexual transsexuals are easy, they're obvious, they're simple. Any population you go into, they will tend to be smaller, they will tend to be lighter, they will be much curvier, they will be extremely feminine in everything, in their mannerisms, the way they look, the sound of their voices, everything will be incredibly feminine, and you will frequently be fooled. You'll go, that's not a girl. You'll be amazed. You meet people like Blair White, and I know many girls like that. I don't know Blair personally, but I know many others. And honestly, I kid you not, they're going to fool you. You're going to go, I'll tell you a story. I was once in a restaurant with four TS friends, okay, in the Philippines, in San Fernando. One of them was AGP, but that doesn't really matter because In Asia, AGPs can often be very attractive. You know, that profile is not quite the same as the one as you see in the West. Anyhow, we were sitting there enjoying a few drinks, just chatting, you know, as friends, and an Australian guy came over. I think he was Australian. I mean, he had an Australian accent. And he was a little bit drunk, you know, and he'd obviously seen me, sole Western guy with 4 girls, and I know exactly what he was thinking. So he comes over and he starts, you know, doing his thing, you know, doing that guy stuff, you know, showing his game and all the rest of it. And he starts on saying, oh, it's, you know, the worst thing about the Philippines, it's all the damn ladyboys, you know, the you know, and he started to be really quite derogatory about trans women in the Philippines. And one of the girls pipes up, you know, Trisha she's called, she says, I'm a ladyboy, I'm TS. And, you know, the guy's like, what? And then one after the other 3, so that's all 4 of them, they all go, yeah, well, so am I. And honestly, this man, his face, it was hilarious. You know, you would have thought that the ground should, you know, he just wanted the ground to open up and swallow him up. That's how convincing it is. You know, this guy was a, you know, typical, you know, guy looking out for girls. He was totally taking it, absolutely taking it. And he was a guy who knew that there were lots of ladyboys around the place. You know, he was totally fooled. It was hilarious. It was amazingly funny. And all those girls are incredibly attractive women. There's just no way around it. As I say, the profile differences in Asia are not the same as they are in the West. In the West, they're really, really marked in terms of physicality. So, in the West, when you see when you see them and you meet them and you find these little small girly people and you go, ah, okay. And then you meet the AGPs and they're like big and masculine like me. There's just nothing feminine about them at all. They don't act like women. They don't look like women. Their responses, you know, an HSTS, her responses are really feminine, really girly, you know. And AGPs never are. You know, it's like, fancy a pint, let's go and play some golf. You know, I mean, you know you're dealing with a guy straight away. It's just obvious. So how, you know, there are clearly 2 different types. It's just obvious to anybody who knows trans people, well, MTF trans people. It's a bit different for FTM, but we'll go into that in another program. There has to be an explanation for that, you know, because the standard narrative which comes out from principally AGP activists is that, oh, we're just all women born in the same body. So now you've got 2 different types of women, right, born in male bodies. I mean, come on, guys, get real. You know, how many exceptions to the rule do you want to have here? No, it's just not the case. Now, if you look at the homogeneity amongst one group, the group that Blanchard calls HSTS, and remember, the biggest single distinguishing factor about HSTS is that they are uniquely attracted to men very strongly from childhood. They'll have been having crushes on men, you know, in primary 5, 5th grade, 4th grade. You know, it's that young. When the boys around them were having crushes on the girls around them, these ones were having crushes on men. Older men, particularly. That's normal. It just happens to be that way. I don't know whether that relates to the way that girl crushes happen, you know, because I haven't studied that. But certainly, HSTS will typically have been having crushes on older men, you know, starting when they're maybe 6, 7, 8 years old. So that's a very typical type, and they're so homogeneous, they're so similar. Although in each ethnicity they're slightly different, within each ethnicity the group is incredibly homogeneous. So it's a really discrete group that you can say, look, you know, all these things happen in this group of people, right? They're small, they're neotenous, they're cute, they're pretty, they're very feminine in their movements, they just are really good, really bad at being male. It's hopeless for them. They're totally unhappy when they're trying to be male, and they're absolutely lustfully attracted to men. So doesn't that tell you that there's something innate going on? It certainly says that to me. It just does, you know. I mean, what else could it be? And it does appear to be that all of these factors are related to form this particular subtype. I am not saying that HSTS trans women are trans women because they're homosexual. I'm saying that is one factor in a group of factors that give you the HSTS trans woman, right? It's one of many. Some of these are physical, some of these are psychological, some of these are physiological, and some of these are to do with orientation, right? But when you take them all together, the result is HSTS trans women. Now, AGPs, this is the other type. They're nothing like that at all. They're just not like that. Whereas HSTS will be all very, very similar within a very small range. You'll find that AGPs, in terms of body morphology, that is how they look physically, they look exactly like the men in the society they come from. There'll be big ones, short ones, stocky ones, skinny ones, you know. They just look the same as the guys. In Asia they can often be very tall, which is interesting. Don't know why that is. When you look at their faces, the faces are not feminine. Now, if you go to Southeast Asia and you're a Westerner, I can tell you this for a fact. There are Southeast Asian straight guys walking out there who look like girls. I'm sorry guys, you know, it's just one thing you have to live with. You know, if you go particularly, Vietnam particularly, my goodness, I mean, you'll see men and you'll go, Thailand's the same, but it's really marked in Vietnam. And you go, is that a woman in a guy's clothes? It's not, it's just a guy. But they're very, 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 they don't have the things that we in the West associate with masculinity, you know, the heavy brow ridges and the heavy features and the pronounced, they just don't have that. You know, they're actually very feminine. I don't know why that is. Because they obviously have plenty of testosterone because they're randy little buggers. I don't know. It's just, you know, an effect of that ethnicity. You know, it's the way that testosterone is acting on their body type. It's not quite the same as the way it works in the West. So when one of those is actually AGP, right, and when she does actually take feminizing hormones from the age of 14, which they do, or even younger, you should not really be surprised that by the time she gets to being 20, she's a pretty striking looking girl. I mean, really. Too westernized. She is not going to fool anybody from Southeast Asia. You know, the AGP just ain't going to do it. Most HSTS won't either, but that's because the people are attuned to this. But no, no Southeast Asian is going to see an AGP and go, ah, that's a girl. The way your typical randy Westerner does, go, wow, look, supermodel. You know, she's 6 foot. No. Asian women are 5 foot, you know. It just ain't going to work. But for a Westerner, you go out there and you go, wow, look at all these tall, beautiful, gorgeous women with these incredible legs and, you know, backside, it's all silicone by the way, backsides like this. They're AGP, the whole bloody lot of them. So you've got this range of body types which are exactly the mirror of the male body types. Faces which are exactly like the male faces, slightly modified by the application of hormones, usually birth control pills, over a period of years. They dress very sexy. They're incredibly good at makeup. If any city, in fact any damn village in Southeast Asia is full of makeup parlours, and women sit there and spend hours being made up. Going out tonight, okay, I'll go to the parlour, I'll get my nails done, I'll get my hair coloured, I'll get my face done. They're in there for 4 hours, right? And this is a big business. You should not be surprised that these people are perfectly capable of making anybody look gorgeous. They could make me look gorgeous, and Christ, look at the job they'd have. You know what I mean? It's just, don't be surprised by this. So, what this means is that even when it's slightly difficult to tell, it's not actually that difficult to tell, and there are two totally discrete and separate types of male to feminine. Nobody except Blanchard has come up with the answer. We've already seen HSTS, we see this cluster of physiological, psychological, physical and sexual traits which together give you an HSTS. So what is it about AGPs? They're totally disparate. If you look, they look like the male population, disparate. Their faces are like the male population's faces, disparate. Their mannerisms are masculine. They're just exactly like other guys. So why? What is driving them to transition? Something must be causing that. Something must be causing that. It didn't just go bing, you know. And they're obviously not women trapped in men's bodies. That's just ridiculous. I mean, how do you know? How would you know what it is to feel like a woman? Duh. Ray Blanchard's Etiology. First of all, his typology stands up. There's absolutely no way that you can argue that there are not two different, discrete, separate types. When you look at the cluster analysis, it's obvious. And if you go on my site, by the way, roderick.a.fleming.com, guest author Naomi Heron, she's just posted, who is herself HSTS, has just posted an excellent little article describing this pairing clustering in several different ethnicities that are found in South Florida. And she sees exactly the same thing. In each different ethnicity, you'll see this pairing, HSTS and the AGP type. And they're always different. They're not, you know, they're just always distinctly and obviously different. Now, Blanchard's etiology, Blanchard's explanation basically devolves to the idea that these people are in love with the idea of themselves as women. Okay? And this is a sexualized love. Right? It's not just a sort of platonic romantic thing that you might think. Although that is clearly a part of it. I mean, and like I say, that can be rewarded in a whole range of different ways. And this is what we see. Blanchard's original study, because he was looking at a particular profile current in the West, showed that they tended to dress in women's clothes and masturbate. That's not by no means the only one that he found, but he found that that was a commonality. But there are many other rewards that AGPs find, which Blanchard again pointed out. He said it's a propensity. You know, there's in Asia, for example, one way they do it is through beauty pageants. You get a lot of another anecdote for you. HSTS friend of mine, she's very, very pretty. It's a tiny little, slim, slender, gorgeous girl, lovely, and a lovely person, such a sweetheart. She decided to join some beauty pageants, and so she got her costumes all done up, you know, and did all that, did her dance moves and all the rest, the stuff they do, you know, and joined. And I talked to her a couple of, because I couldn't go to that particular pageant, but I talked to her a couple of weeks later. And I said, "Hey Angel, how did you get on?" And she's like, "Oh, it's terrible, you know, I didn't get anywhere near it." And I said, "What happened?" She said, "Well, the other ones, they were all really tall. They had huge boobs. And you know, because you're a tiny little HSTS and they're huge AGPs. And of course, on stage, whoa, you know, they look incredible because in heels they're 6'4". And she, in heels, would be all of 5'4", you know. So that's another way that they get that sexual reward. It's through competition and being accepted as women. You know, I'm the most beautiful woman here. You know, you've got a dick, but never mind. So that it's not only, we're not only talking about physical self-pleasuring. There's a whole range of other things. You find AGPs will enter into relationships with men, particularly in Asia and in South America. And the whole point here, it's partly having sex as a woman, you know, to be penetrated and to feel that that's what they feel it's like to be having sex, you know, as a woman. To be a woman, to have sex as a woman. But also, in terms of a relationship, it's playing the role of a woman to the man. And that is a form of acceptance as a woman. It's all sexualized reward. So, when you take all these things into account, and you observe the situation, like I have for a long time, you know, I've been looking at this for 15 years now, seriously looking at it, and I've spent so much time and so much money investigating it in places other than the West. It's obvious that there are two types. Anybody who says that there isn't two types is just, they're either lying or they don't know what they're talking about. And the fact is that it's easy to see how it comes about for HSTS. That's really simple and always has been. Blanchard did not invent that description. Although he's accused of it, he didn't. That one was around since Hirschfeld. You know, and we know that there's this cluster of characteristics and traits around, one of which is that they're sexually attracted to men from childhood. So that's long been known about. That one's easy, you know. The difficult one was the other type, the autogynephiles, and Blanchard's the only one who has ever come up with any kind of plausible explanation for it. You know, there isn't another game in town. If you want to disprove Blanchard, by all means be my guest. I am not, you know, an evangelizer for a particular scientist. The way science works is that you have to come up with better science. You have to disprove it. And doing the bullshit that these people do, you know, like, that's been that, it bloody hasn't. The fact is, there has never been any science that contradicts Blanchard. Not one piece of credible science. I've seen plenty of political polemics, I've seen plenty of accusations, I've seen plenty of, frankly, bollocks sold, pseudoscience being sold as some sort of contradiction to Blanchard, and not one of them holds up. Not one. So, until somebody comes up with a better explanation for what we will call for the time being, well, in fact, we'll use the scientific term, the non-homosexual type, right? Because you've got homosexual and non-homosexual, who are actually AGP, but we'll call them non-homosexual here. Somebody comes up with a better explanation for how non-homosexual transsexualism comes about, or transgenderism comes about, better than autogynephilia as a stimulus, we're all going to buy it. We're all going to go, yeah, okay, that's fine. That's what it is then. Got it. And we'll leave Blanchard behind. But you've never done it. And the fact is, you're not even trying. You're not even trying. And the reason I think that people are not trying to actually address this question and do real science that might debunk Blanchard is, that's non-homosexual transsexuals who are not doing it, is that they know he's right. That's the real thing. They know he's right.